That's their middle school. It says.
Okay, thanks everyone for being in attendance. It's now 5 p.m. So if you don't mind, we will call this meeting to order. And if you will, join me in a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, is there a motion approval of the agenda? Mr. Nate?
So moved.
I second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, passes unanimously. Ms. Cushing-Berry, are there public comments, ma'am?
No, sir. And Ms. Gordon is now joining.
Okay, welcome, Ms. Gordon.
And she's still coming in.
Okay. And then operational expectations. So welcome to our colleagues from HR. You had a lot of good comment with a lot of information and data on the successes and the things that you've done individually in your areas as well as collectively. So with that, a motion to approve committee meeting minutes. Are there minutes, ma'am?
It's not on the agenda and there's no minutes to approve.
Okay. All right. We're moving into OE1 and we'll turn it over to Ms. Walton and her team.
Good afternoon, Mr. Dallas. Sorry you're not here. I'm going to turn it over to Candace because she is handling this OE. She will be doing OE1 and OE3. Is that correct?
Yes, and 10, 11.
And 10 and 11. So she's going to tag team with us today.
Okay.
All right, so good evening, everybody. We're excited to tell you about the things going on in communications this past year. The district is in compliance with operational expectation 1 in support of the policy that we take reasonable measures to protect the district's image. We understand this component requires us to project a positive district image. We have taken numerous steps to protect and enhance the BCSD's public image, ensuring alignment with operational expectation 1. Through leadership recognition, for example, Dr. Rodriguez was named the South Carolina Superintendent of the Year and recognized as a top 25 superintendent to watch by the National School of Public Relations Association, reflecting the district's strong leadership and positive reputation. And along with that, because of Dr. Rodriguez, there is a lot of community trust and support, and that's evidenced by the overwhelmingly approved $439 million bond referendum, showcasing public confidence in the district's direction and leadership. In terms of strategic communication improvements, a couple months ago, we're excited. We're thankful to the finance department and to Ms. Walton and her HR team. Following a comprehensive review of communication efforts, the district enabled us to restructure our communications department. And also we're excited about the strategic plan. It has an engagement pillar. And this is going to help us really do a lot with that engagement pillar. The district this past year had an inaugural BCSD University program that provided community members with a deeper understanding of district operations. And this is meant to foster ambassadorship, so people can share good things about the district out in the community. And it's a really cool program because people are able to learn like the nuts and bolts, like Mark Shulman presented last night. And talk all about, one-to-one devices. Robert's team has presented, and people don't realize, like, it's not just about academics. We actually have academics go last, so people can see how much other things go into running the district. Like even getting, thousands of students every day to and from school on the buses, things like that. And people are, really, it makes people really think and appreciate, the large scale organization that we have. In terms of brand transparency efforts, a brand refresh was completed in coordination with the strategic plan development to elevate the district's image. Also, our FOIA responses are posted publicly to ensure transparency on the website. In terms of digital and media engagement, the district's website received over 800,000 page views with top pages, including things like the faculty staff intranet, which has been very helpful, the academic calendar, careers, student services. We also, Ron Lopes, who is wonderful, produced over 285 video news stories this past year. And he's also been doing reels. And this is garnering more than 1.3 million views across the platforms. YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels attracted 80,000 views in just 3 months. We had thousands of community members engaging with the district on social media, with our Facebook posts reaching over 1 million users, and page visits increased by 5% last year from the prior year. In terms of media and public relations, as you guys know, we issue a lot of press releases, and Dr. Rodriguez and various other team members are very amenable to doing media interviews. This is a really important piece here. In terms of getting out in the community, Dr. Rodriguez participated in over 75 speaking engagements across the county this past year. From Rotary groups, civic leaders, law enforcement, speaking with students, ecumenical partners, you name it. And I think people remember when he comes and speaks to them, and he's very approachable. And those things take a lot of time. They take more time than making a quick social media post or even putting something in the newspaper. But people remember that. And I think those in-person things, we can talk about technology all the time, but those in-person things, they're very special, and it does work. He had met with student advisories at the high schools, and we obviously have consistent communications with families and staff through robocalls and emails. The clock has their information all on our website, which is supporting further transparency, along with, there's a great finance section on the website as well. Again, we're excited about our restructure to better serve schools, educators, families, and the community. In terms of, we're, again, so excited about this engagement pillar. We're really happy that communications has a place in this upcoming strategic plan. And we're going to talk about that more at the board work session on Friday. That's what we have for OE1.
Okay. Ms. Gordon, Mr. Nay, any comments?
Yeah, I'm a little confused. Why is, since communications is a direct report to the superintendent, why are you briefing operations committee?
Because the previous board had put HR and communications under operations. They don't have their own separate committee.
Okay. All right. Thanks for answering.
Mr. Nay, for whatever it's worth, I asked that same question about 2 weeks ago. And so it's good to have those groups coming in a very collegial manner and presenting good information. I think it helps the more board members understand some of the great work that's being done. So, but I also had that question as well. So thank you for reminding me of that, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Dallas, Ms. Gordon's hands up, and then in the room you have Mr. Smith, Colonel Dyer, and Mr. Campbell online.
Okay, Ms. Gordon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too had the same question about HR being under operations and communications being under them. So I think that's a different discussion for us. But I appreciate the information that has come forward so far from communications, and look forward to any information that HR will present tonight.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Campbell? Any comments, sir?
No, sir, thank you.
Colonel Guyer,
Oh, sir, thank you.
Mr. Smith?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Mrs. Bruder said something about restructuring. What are we restructuring?
So we have, we've restructured some of our positions in communications. So for example, now Ron Lopes, he is going to be our BCSD news production specialist. So he's going to be, doing even more videos. He's also going to be working directly with schools and working with schools, creating videos also. So that's part of our efforts, is to work directly with schools to create consistency. And also he and Miss Godley here, and Miss Godley is our digital communications and public relations specialist who will be doing the website ADA compliance. She and Ron are going to be, she's a former reporter, and they're going to be tag teaming. We're making a new, and again, we're going to go into this a lot on Friday, but we're making a new BCSD news hub on our website where, you know, all the newspaper and, you know, other media coverage is going to be. But apart from that, we're going to be producing our own things, right? Like, so I don't know if you guys have seen like the sheriff's department, they have a little, like a little mini like news video thing they put out weekly. Like Miss Godley is going to be doing that because she has the reporting background. So instead of relying on media to pick up our good stories, like we're going to be our own news outlet, if you will, and then push out our things. And people will have a resource to go to. So I think even like when Dr. Rodriguez goes to groups and things like that, like we have little cards that are already that have a QR code that it's going to link people to that website once it's up and running. So people can see, because a school can report something here and there and all that, but when you put it all together, like we have a lot to offer, obviously, and it's important that we showcase that properly.
So basically, we're going to have a district yearly campaign going. Was that what I'm about to understand?
Well, like what kind of campaign?
A yearly district campaign, basically about the district, you know, basically.
Yeah. I mean, we're definitely gonna be pushing things out like that. And then the other thing is too, we're also going to have more of an emphasis on engaging volunteers and business partnerships. And I think that's a key piece as well. That's not really it.
No problem.
Okay. Any more questions or comments?
Yeah, I'm finished. I'm not finished, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Smith.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I said I'm not finished.
Okay. Yeah. All right, go ahead.
Also, in this piece, also you're talking about the message that you sent out,
Like, how do you mean the messaging?
like as in
Oh, like emails, robocalls and things like that?
no emails to board members such as
Yeah,
updates.
yeah,
Is
that's
that-
OE 10, I think. I
Okay,
think
so
that's coming up.
Okay, I'll wait till
Coming up.
then,
And I would be remiss too. Miss Mercado has been a great addition to our team. Like, she has been producing beautiful things for us that really that are reflective of the district's excellence. And it's going to be a game changer. Thank you.
You can have Mr. Chair.
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Ms. Smith?
I said I give it back to you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right, thank you, Ms. Smith. Okay, I believe there's a motion to be made. Is that correct?
No, sir.
Okay, all right.
Are you, it's an acceptance. Are you
Okay,
finished? Yes, you could, yes, there is an acceptance for a motion, and you can have it all go to the consent agenda at the end, if that's what the committee approves of.
having read through all the great work that's been done, I think going through it collectively, and then if Mr. Ney and Ms. Gordon agree to move it to the consent agenda, I think will be a good thing to do. Mr. Ney, Ms. Gordon.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've already read through all the material. It was pretty thorough as far as the pre-read goes. I'm okay with moving it to consent agenda.
Me too.
Okay, so one down. Okay, next one up.
Oh,
Mr.
I agree to move it as well.
Okay, thank you. It's unanimous. Okay, who has the next OE?
Mr. Dallas, I have the next OE. And
Okay,
it's OE2, the superintendent's succession plan. And the board requires that the superintendent designate at least one other staff member in his executive group to sit in his stead if he has to be out, only on an emergency basis. And his plan is in order. I was looking for the org chart for that, but I don't see it. It's not in Robin's materials.
Is it?
No, it's a little bit smaller than that. And
Okay.
it really just states that if the superintendent is not in, and I'll make sure that you get a copy. I'll make sure Robin gets it posted to the website. If the superintendent is not here, the next person in line is Dr. Lee. If Dr. Lee is not here, the next person in line is me. If I'm not here, the next person is Dr. Stratos. Then Robert Otting, Tanya Crosby, Candace Brewer, and Wendy Cottage. These would be the people who would sit in place of the superintendent if he's out. But it's a part of your executive summary.
I saw it and was very impressed. I have been wondering what would be the sequence. And the table that you're showing is one that I noted, and thanks. I do have a question. I saw a name, Robert Confair.
Yes, Robert Confair is our technology second under Mark Johan. All
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, ma'am.
right, you're welcome.
Any further comments or? Mr. Nay and Ms. Gordon, are you amenable to moving this one to consent agenda as well?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so 2 down. Thank you both. Okay, the next one, please.
Alrighty, so now we're gonna do OE3. The district is in compliance with operational expectation 3 in support of the policy that the superintendent shall maintain an organizational culture that treats all people, including parents, citizens, and staff with respect, dignity, and courtesy. And we understand this is a district-wide effort. The Beaufort County School District continues to uphold an organizational culture rooted in respect, transparency, and effective communication, meeting the expectations of OE3. So in terms of confidential information management, all employees completed mandatory FERPA and ethics training and signed annual confidentiality agreements covering sensitive topics like records, emails, and financial information. All automated technology safeguards such as filters to prevent the emailing of confidential data, secure logins, and multi-factor authentication were utilized to protect sensitive information. FOIA requests and responses are always reviewed to ensure confidential information is redacted appropriately. Many times when we get requests from the media about things, we decline to comment on a student or employee's disciplinary and or medical matters, complying with federal privacy laws or that applies to employees as well. In terms of handling of complaints received via email, telephone, social media, or the report of concern form were routed to appropriate district staff or school principals. Unresolved complaints were escalated to the superintendent or designee for further resolution. In terms of organizational culture and stakeholder engagement, we've had a lot of success with our online engagement platform. BCSD Connected had over 30,000 site visits. Let's see here. 13,000 individual contributions approximately, with a 36.3% engagement rate for those who came to the site. In terms of community involvement, like I said, we had student advisory councils. We had community organization presentations, In terms of we also had our strategic branding refresh that was conducted with feedback from focus groups, parents, students, staff, and community members. In terms of survey as well to elevate BCSD's image and align with its mission. Again, we have over 285 video news stories that Mr. Lopes did, and I already went over those stats with you in the previous OE. In terms of emergency communications, as you know that those can be challenging. I will say as part of our communications audit, people did highlight that as a strength. And that's something we always strive to work on as well. In terms of internal communication, I was saving the introduction of Dr. Pennington until this point. She is also part of our restructure and she's been a wonderful addition. And so her role is an internal engagement and events specialist. And so she's communicating with employees via email, sharing good news, doing, a newsletter for employees. She is making our events extra special and extra fun, really working on the intranet. This position is a really, really important position just in terms of morale. And so we're very, very excited about that. And then of course we have Molly. And I wanted to say too, we try very hard with our employees to give employees information before we give it to the general public. I know you all see the emails that go out to all staff as you get those. We will try to, if there's a media release, if there is information about a storm, things like that, we will always put it out to principals first and tell them, hey, this is going to go to your staff in a few minutes. Then it goes to all employees. And then we tell employees it's going to go to parents. And then after it goes to parents, then we release it to the media. So that's what we have. Thank you.
Very, very well done. Very well done. I also saw where you talked about the website, 878,000 page views. I thought that was very impressive. And in the beginning of your information, you talked about your Facebook followers growing from 22,000 to 24,700. I thought that was impressive as well. So it's always nice to be able to see the growth when it occurs. And if there's regression, then, certainly that as well. But thanks for all the efforts that have been put forth so far. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Mr. Ney and Ms. Gordon, are you comfortable with this one moving to consent agenda?
Sir, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so 3 down. Thank you very much, Dr. Bruder. All right, next up.
The next up is OE4, and that is personnel administration. And we, I guess I need to preface our report by saying that the board requires that the superintendent shall ensure that recruitment, employment, development, evaluation, and compensation of district employees is in a manner necessary to enable the district to achieve its results policies. And we as a team in the HR department take that directive very seriously. And I know you're looking at this OE as exhausting, and it probably is, but it's not exhaustive. So we are covering only just a few tidbits of what we actually do in HR. So the OE requires that we do certain things to make sure that we remain in compliance. So I think I put in your folder 3 different forms of this presentation. We are changing it a little bit this year because when the OEs were first put in place, most board members didn't really understand what we did in HR. There's so many little pieces that go into HR that it is very difficult to say we've done this and we've done that. So we've broken it down into 3 different sections for you today. The first one is the legal document, and that's your actual OE that will be officially signed, and you will officially agree that it is in compliance. In this, we list all of the areas that fall under the requirements to be in compliance to make sure employees are recruited, trained, supported, evaluated, and compensated. So that's what you will see in your 3-page, 4-page document that lists the executive summary for the OE. Second part of the presentation is a PowerPoint. And it's 30 pages. We're not going to go through this. We gave it to you early so that you could go through it, peruse it. It really creates a visual picture of what the OE is. While HR works as a team, there are many different areas of specialties that fall within HR. So that requires people that are experts in these areas. And I know you know all of the people sitting around the table and around the walls. These are the HR staff. This is the HR leadership team. And these individuals are responsible for making sure all of this happens, and it happens with fidelity. So I know you've gone through this, and you will probably have questions for us afterwards, and we are here to answer those questions. The third part of the presentation is your 1-page compliance sheet. And this lists the things under each one of the 4 different categories that we must be efficient in order to remain compliant. And that's governance, recruitment, employment, climate and compensation, and development and evaluation. And you will note that under each of these, we highlight all of the new things that we've added during the year, things that we've done that we have been working on and completed, or additional things. And as an example, under governance, we have implemented the Title IX federal law and have trained over 40 Title IX investigators across the district. Under recruitment, we have a virtual hiring event that we've just completed. We've hired 216 teachers this year. And we've also implemented our own certification program called LEAP. So that brings non-traditional certified people into the classrooms to help fill our void with the current crisis of teacher retention across the states. Under climate and compensation, our new teacher beginning salary started at, or is at, am I correct, Matt?
Yes, ma'am, 51,066.
Yes. We still have the $1,500 locality supplement in place. And last year we served over 503 employees, students in our Epic childcare. And there are no changes to our benefits this year. So our employees continue to get the same great benefits with no additional costs. Am I right, Rosella? That's correct. Unemployment. We ensure efficiency in staffing through monitoring and analyzing employment data. And I must note that everything that we do in HR is governed by policy. Any decisions we make, any movements we make, it's always supported through an AR. We constantly update employees as times change, as our staff change, as the district's needs change. We have also, and we're very proud of this, have almost completely implemented our employee files to electronic files. We now only have about 715 inactive employee files that remain out of 14,060 files. So those files are now electronic. Employees have the right or the ability to access their employee file at any time through our electronic system. And then under development and evaluation, we have offered 126,000 hours of professional development last year. We have distributed emergency response kits to all schools and programs. We have over 200 employees that are trained to administer CPR, stop the bleed, and NARCO. And we also produced an HR boot camp this summer for principals and assistant principals to keep them abreast with new laws as they've changed. So with that being said, I will give the floor back to you so that you can ask us any questions you might have.
Ms. Gordon, any questions or comments, ma'am?
I would just like to compliment Ms. Browder and Ms. Walton on their teams and the amount of work that they have put out and this information to the public and to us. Thank you for all that you do. It is voluminous, but it is necessary, and you've made it easy to understand the steps that you are taking. So thank you very much. And I heard some familiar names being called, Ms. Rosella, Mr. Matt. So consistency, I believe, in these departments also help you to be as good as you are. So thank all of you.
Mr. Nay?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I got a couple of things actually. So I read in there in the pre-read that we did virtual job fairs, in-person job fairs, all kind of stuff. We're hiring people from across the world, a couple different countries, all that kind of stuff. If we're hosting virtual job fairs and other types of job fairs, much like every other school in the United States, and I think there was something in there that we had access to 5,000 students or 5,000 applicants per day or recruits per day or something like that. But what are we doing to set ourselves above the other sea or the sea of people that are trying to hire teachers?
I'm going to take a crack at that, and then I'm going to turn it over to Susie Lang, who is our recruiting and retention director, and she works directly with recruiters. We set ourselves apart by our benefits, what we offer new teachers, what we offer teachers to the district. So outside of doing the virtual fairs, we also do in-person fairs. So I'm going to turn it over to Susie Lang. Susie, you want to come on?
Sure. Hi there, good evening. We do a lot of things to highlight the wonderful place that is Beaufort County. We make certain to highlight the induction and mentoring support that they receive within our district. We also communicate with communications and get our district well known through our social media influence. We do use Handshake, which is that one that gives us access. With our recruiting event that we had last night, we actually were able to offer early contracts. And we think that that is really going to help us to stand out, because by offering an early contract, we're getting people locked into Beaufort County for beginning in January and even next year. So those are some of the things that we do to get people to lock into this district.
Awesome. I think you're the person to answer my next question also. I saw something about 30,000-ish, something for a geofencing and billboarding recruiting program. Can you please explain the geofencing program?
I'm actually going to turn that one over to Reggie. We work in cohort.
Good evening. Geofencing is part of our advertisement campaign. We partnered with a company out of Savannah and Myrtle Beach. What geofencing is that if a teacher, a person that's interested in a teaching position walks into a Walmart, when they walk into Walmart, it will trigger their phone and send a message to their phone letting them know that Beaufort County has teaching positions available, and they can actually apply or research while they're in Walmart or any store.
Thank you. So is it just like Walmart, or is it just, is it like somebody driving through our county? Where are these geofencing areas? Like, are there anything besides Walmart?
Trafficking areas. So they pick and choose the high trafficking areas for educators. So they pinpoint those areas, and we can actually choose those areas also. We can tell them we're interested in
Like Office
Oh.
Max or something like that, or?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
We also, last year, when we had our in-person job fair for the first time in 3 years, we had a teacher from Minnesota who actually showed up at the job fair because she got a geofencing notice on her phone when she was at the beach.
Okay. All right.
And we also had a billboard campaign that we also put up around Beaufort County and out on I-95.
Awesome. Mr. Chair, if you don't mind, I got one more.
Sure.
So I also saw that we are increasing our background checks. We went up, I guess, all like from 369 to 462. So what is why the increase in background checks when our retention is basically stagnant? If I can't remember where it was at, but I think I saw we went up less than 0.5% in retention, which is, I know I play drums for a living, but my math says that's like 5, maybe 7 people, something like that. So why such a jump in our background checks when our retention is basically stagnant?
I'm going to turn this over to Jennifer Staten, who is our risk manager and manages the background checks.
Right, so I review most of the background checks and the communications does the outreach and things like that. All I can kind of peg is what we did differently is we switched to Raptor this year. And they have a lot more that the community can access and get involved with Raptor. So, and I think we're still, I mean, even though the pandemic is, we've gone up every year since the pandemic. So I think people are still coming back into the system. It took a while when we stopped having volunteers to build back up. So I think we're still seeing the surge of people coming back into the buildings after that time frame. So that is my best guess.
Alrighty. Well, thank you. I appreciate you.
Okay, I see Ms. Boatwright has her hand up. Ms. Boatwright?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you guys hear me okay? Because I'm on my headphones.
Yes, ma'am.
Perfect. My question is, Ms. Walton, first of all, I would like to say thank you so much for mentioning the move to the electronic systems, because I know that that has been a big task. What electronic system did you move to?
We use Frontline, and that is our personnel system that we have implemented and slowly moving beyond where we are into HRMS with Frontline that will manage everything. And I have the expert in Frontline here if you need to ask her question, and that's Ashley Crowley. She's our systems person.
I do have a question. HRMS sounds exciting. So is that the next level, or is you said that you're moving into what I'm assuming is a human resource management system, sort of more of a platform as opposed to a software. So is that the long-term plan, or where are we now on that journey?
So right now that's kind of our long-term plan, and it's also our short-term plan because we've been implementing that system for 2 years. And we probably will get completely into the system probably I'd say before next school year. Frontline Central is where we have all of our
It's employee management.
yes, employee management system. So that's where all of our files are.
They're currently in Frontline Central, but you're moving to something a little more, I guess, integrated or a little more robust. Okay.
Yeah, Ms. Boatwright, this is Matt Hunt. And so what HRMS does, it's an integrated system. So it's going to integrate components that we currently have for recruiting and hiring, which used to be called Applitrack. Everything from the marketing of the position and the posting of the position, that once employees get their information in there, they're recommended for the position. That information then goes into Frontline Central and also will go into HRMS. Employees will be able to access all of their personnel files through Frontline Central. HRMS also is works in conjunction with the finance department as well. So that all of our
Perfect.
staffing is going to be managed through HRMS, allowing principals, for example, the staffing sheets that I've been keeping on an Excel spreadsheet that were started when Dale Crawford was here, all of that will become digitized at that point.
Hallelujah. That's fantastic. And then what's sort of the, and I'm sorry, just for one more follow-up,
Sure,
what's sort of the goal of doing that? What do you hope to achieve in terms of moving it to the HRMS?
Well, HRMS creates efficiency, first of all. More than that, though, it creates a historical record. Historical record is important for position management, for position control, for projecting, for being able to go back, when people want to audit. So that will allow that. Plus, it allows and frees up a lot of extra workspace because we're not having to manage paper files any longer.
That sounds fabulous. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Boatwright. Mr. Campbell?
No, I don't have anything right now. I got a couple of questions, but I'll wait till the end of the meeting.
Okay, thank you, sir. Colonel Guyer?
Colonel Guyer's hands up.
Yeah, Colonel Guyer?
Yes, sir. I got two observations from this excellent briefing. Number one, climate compensation, beginning teacher salary by county, with ours at $51,066 and Charleston's at $56,000. That's a 9.2% increase. And that's our challenge as we come to this budget cycle. And I, for one, want to compete with Charleston. So we're going to have to figure out how we're going to be able to do that. On the other hand, the second observation is the climate survey from 23 to 24, spring 23 to spring 24. We've made great strides. I mean, it's when you're running in the 90% range, people being satisfied, that's fantastic. And that's very, very impressive. That helps us maybe in the gap in the $6,000 that we got to find, doesn't substitute that, but that's really a good statistic. Thank you.
Thank you, Colonel. Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir. One of my first questions is well, I just said thanks to the HR Marvel coming in today. See that y'all are here in full effect. Thank you all for coming in, spending time with Operations Committee and everyone else.
Mr. Smith, on that note, because you named them the HR mob, we named ourselves the Comm Squad. Yeah.
I understand that. Thanks for the FYI. Well, on the next, my question was, in terms of the, it was one. Oh, and the report of emergency management. What is the how regular does emergency management get into the day-to-day operation, and when do we involve
Jennifer.
Mrs. Staten and we're involved in the conversation that go throughout the district?
So let me see if I can understand your question. Are you asking that if there are emergencies in the district, how often is Jennifer State involved?
Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer is, and Jennifer, you can speak up.
Yes.
Hold on.
So we have had set up an email list on the flashing lights. So anytime there is something that's going on the campus, there's a group of us that gets notified. And we've asked the schools to keep it very stripped down, but at least to let us know we have a medical emergency on campus. So right off away, like Robert Otting would know that doesn't involve him, but that might involve me. So I give him a little time to calm down. And then I follow up with them saying, what was the medical emergency? Was it an employee injury? Was it a personal health condition? Do we need to follow up with FMLA? What is going on there? If it's a work-related injury, then I try and intercede because I coordinate all the workers' compensation and see what we need to do as far as do they need more orthopedists once they've been there, follow up to see what the injury might have been, if they tripped and fell or something like that. So this really helps having this email come in. So those of us that can follow up, right off the bat, Matt would know that's not really me, but I know that would be me. So then I will usually contact the office manager or the principal saying, when things calm down, please give me a little bit more information, and then I continue.
So with asking that question exactly, I think I would possibly like to understand more about what emergency management does, because when I think about emergency management, there's a couple of these that stick out to me, and the question is because basically where it came from is so when someone was asking me about the emergency management person in the district. And I think I was lead to say, well, my first thought was Mrs. Henderson.
Right.
So, but then it was like, no, I think this person was a person, and I think they said, Mrs. Staten. And I said, no, I think they have two different roles. And so I was trying to understand that. But I told her a tale because I would need to get back to her, but she was arguing me down and telling me no, it was the emergency person was Mrs. Staten, and I said, nah, I understand that, but I think it's different types of emergency management. So I think I would like to get a who, where, what, when, why, and how you're activated upon things that go on, and burst upon how we activate Mrs. Henderson in her perspective role, because also. When I think about it, and when I from my seat, looking in terms of what that looked like, also it gets kind of, I won't say it gets
murky.
That's a perfect word. in terms of security personnel as well as emergency management, because the question becomes, how closely are y'all working? How closely should you be working? And to me, that's not a drilling down or getting the weed. That's understanding the total operations and what we're actually paying for as a stakeholder in terms of what all that looks like in this district. And that is definitely some of the importance. And it goes back to certain things that our state legislators have said in the past. And so I just want to get a clear understanding in terms of how do I understand that and how do I defend that if that question comes at hand.
I would say 90% we could probably write down and break it out for you, because there's really 4 of us that respond. I would say our emergency response, and Kiki's on 2, 5.
Well, we have 4 phases of emergency management.
Right. Then there's Dave Grissom and Stuart Cottingham too. We don't want to forget about them.
Right.
Yeah.
So I get involved anytime there's insurance or injuries or prevention, but that also goes into Jerry, and she does so much training. She's out in the field constantly working with the staffs and the emergency response teams and getting them to the CPR training. I mean, she's always out in the field doing things like that. And then of course, Dave Grissom and Stuart Cottingham, anything that's just police related, in that maybe it's a no trespass order, maybe it's some sort of a student threat, anything where like they take over the SROs. So really, those, and then Kiki does reunification and those sorts of things. So there's really 4 half of us that respond depending on the situation. Sometimes we'll all respond. Jerry has been known to call me, or Stuart will call me, or we'll have a text between all of us saying, you need to know about this, and I'm going over here now. So we pretty much know if a situation comes up, we knew who does what.
And I think to crosswalk Mr. Smith, when you look at section 4, development evaluation, what we're really looking at is the spirit of, are the employees trained to perform the responsibilities assigned to them, and do we have qualified staff members doing that? So that's the reason for us including that into the report here.
I mean, and that may be okay. That's the political side of it. I'm talking about the human realistic side of it.
Yes,
Of understanding when I'm having a conversation out with someone in the public and basically seeing where my tax dollars are going.
Yeah, sure.
So when someone come to me and ask me a question,
Sure.
I need to be able to explain to them and tell them exactly what's going on, who we have in the district, and what their job is, and why do we have certain departments. And
Yeah.
from what I was taught at, I wasn't able to do that. So therefore, I want to bring it down to the simplest degree so that we all can understand and that we all can bring it to realization. That's the point.
Can I make a suggestion? Ms. Walton, you've had, and Dr. Bruder as well, you've had some visuals that show basically a diagram of the job and then a verbiage under there that explains what they do. Maybe if that might be helpful for your consideration, ma'am.
All right, and I think, Mr. Smith wants, probably if we just list those 4 phases, that might put you on the right track. And then we can give him the job descriptions to go along with that.
Is that okay, Mr. Smith?
Yeah, I think that would be okay for me and the public to understand. Yes, sir, absolutely.
Okay, thanks everybody. Okay. Ms. Walton, anything else on OE4?
No, we are finished if you don't have any questions for us.
I have a comment, if I may. I just wanted to note the visuals that have been shared by you and Dr. Bruder really helped me understand the interdependencies. So please, note that that was beneficial. The executive summary, I like that as well. Was easy to compile and take my notes. I was really impressed to learn about the LEAP program and that there are 20 teachers and 4 out of 6 in one area are in science or math, which tends to be areas where it's really difficult for us. And one of the things for Dr. Bruder's consideration, and I saw something on EPIC, I continue to be believing that there's so many things this school district does for the students, for the families that benefit the larger population. And so I think things such as the EPIC enrollment, I didn't know that before becoming a part of this wonderful institution. So I think there are wonderful stories to tell, and I appreciate the way you and your team have told it here this afternoon. So kudos to all teams so far. And Mr. Ney and Ms. Gordon, are you also comfortable moving this one to consent, general?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, agreed. So did someone say something?
Mr. Smith has a question.
Yeah, Mr. Smith.
This oral chart right here, what does this fall up under?
That's the district's hierarchy.
Right, but does this fall in this last OE that we just went over?
Yes, it does. It does, because HR is responsible for creating work charts.
Yes, sir.
So it would be in with this.
Yeah.
With this OE.
Okay. Yeah, I do have a question about the oral chart.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, respectfully, I do have a question about the oral chart.
Please proceed, Mr. Smith.
And this oral chart, I see we have a lot of arrows going in a lot of different directions. And maybe it's because of the size of the paper even, but also within this oral chart, see we have a vacancy for an ED, but then we also have an ED up under the academics committee. And so I would kind of like to get a better understanding of what that looked like and how that works and the definition as well of that position. Because how I understand it is that they are where they are on this chart in terms of the first set, but then I'm not understanding them in the academic department.
Okay, so I think I can explain it too. Originally, there were 3 EDs. That was the original plan for the superintendent. You had an elementary ED, you had a secondary ED, and then you had and ED of school transformations. So when the superintendent decided that he wanted to do an initiative to improve the math scores, he took the ED from school transformation and made her an executive director of curriculum and instruction. So that's why you see that ED under instruction. There is a vacancy because the position that was left vacant by Dr. Dixon needs to be filled. But for now, in the interim, he only has 2 EDs and they're not divided by levels. It's executive director of schools.
That answer your question, Mr. Smith?
In part it does, but I'll leave that part of it there. But also, Dr. Worrell is also a part of the ED, a part of the ED chart, and I was trying to figure that out as well.
He's not part of the EDs. He just answers to the deputy superintendent. So he just falls under the deputy. That's why he's listed there.
But he wasn't there before, though.
No, he was changed and put back under the deputy superintendent when the new deputy was brought in.
But in the prior years, was that not under student services? Right choices, was that not under student services or?
No, it was under student services indirectly, but it kind of set apart when we started to do the restructuring of the right choices program. Pulled out of student services. So it's still there waiting for the transformation, so it can fall back under student services.
So is it appropriate to say that there may be more work done in the near future or so on that?
I would say yes.
Okay.
Yeah, just as it currently is.
Right, okay.
Okay. All right. Any further questions? If not, I think OE 10 is next.
Yes, thank you. The district is in compliance with operational expectation 10 in support of the policy that the superintendent shall ensure that the board is fully and adequately informed about matters relating to board work and significant organizational concern. We understand this component requires a superintendent to have a system in place for establishing, reporting on, and monitoring goals to the board, with meeting materials being submitted in a timely manner, and the superintendent is to respond to the board concerns in a timely manner as well. The Beaufort County School District has systems and practices in place to ensure the board is informed of significant matters and organizational concerns in alignment with OE 10. So in terms of communication with the board, we have our updates that you receive directly from me that cover, significant media interviews or publicity, events that may occur on school grounds or incidents, arrests of students or staff. Also, the board is informed of budget transfers exceeding $50,000, especially involving cross-state designated functional categories, anticipated or actual non-compliance with board operational expectations or roadblocks to achieving the health policies, delegated administrative actions and decisions requiring board approval by law, changes to instructional programming such as attendance boundaries or district-wide initiatives that would impact students, staff, families, or community partners, any instance of a board member intruding into an area or non-compliance of a board member as well, employee arrests or suspensions, including charges, consideration of candidates for administrative or contracting roles who are immediate family members of key district leaders or contractors. And also policy revisions and administrative regulations, proposed revisions to administrative regulations are presented at board committees for review and discussion. By maintaining consistent, transparent, and timely communication, the superintendent has supported the board in its governance responsibilities while addressing significant matters promptly. And I would like to say to that too, I know I provide you with, the updates that come via email. But it's important to note that any board member, if they have a question about anything, can call Dr. Rodriguez at any time, and he will certainly respond promptly to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Bruder. Mr. Nay,
I have nothing. Thank you.
Ms. Gordon?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay, Ms. Boatright?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, there's a piece of this OE that I think isn't being addressed, and it's something that we've been discussing a fair amount in different contexts, and that is how information is provided to the board. So if you look at OE 10, the superintendent's interpretation, the superintendent is to have, make sure I'm on the right one here. Yeah, the superintendent is to have a system in place for establishing, reporting, and monitoring goals to the board. We recognize the meeting materials should be submitted in a timely manner as a comprehensive and concise summary with adequate background information when necessary. This has come up in other committees, and it came up when we looked at Diligent and how we're redoing the board software, in that frequently information is not making it into board docs until either the day before, the night before, or the day of. And also I feel that some of it could have more fulsome background information because as Mr. Nay has mentioned throughout this meeting, he pre-reads and prepares. And that to me is a very important part of being on the board, is reading the materials, looking at the data, looking at the critical analysis of the data, and making recommendations. And I think that is something that we really need to make a push on here. So for me, this OE monitoring report, it does, unless I'm missing, and I've gone through it, it is not a traditional monitoring report, because number one is not the superintendent shall ensure that the board, that is the description of the OE. Number one, and I have to go back to the actual policy, submit required monitoring data in a brief, accurate, timely, and understandable fashion. So if you compare the actual OE to the executive summary, there are chunks of it that are similar, but there are two specific parts of it that reference how information is communicated to the board, and those are not in that executive summary. And I would say for me, we just talked about the evolution of the HR monitoring and the idea of forecasting and auditing. And if you look at number 6, OE 10.6, present information in simple and concise form, indicating clearly whether the information is incidental, intended for decision preparation, or for formal monitoring. And we've never done that, and I wouldn't expect that to start now. But I think that the concept there, which is how the information is presented, if it's intended for decision preparation, if we have the information we need to make a good decision, to ask our questions in advance, I think that's something that the superintendent, who is very, very strong on communicating with the board, and Candace has done Dr. Bruder has done a wonderful job of keeping the board abreast of everything that goes on, media, events, etc. No complaints there, but this is an area where I think we need to make a push and get that information a little more organized, a little more thorough, and a little bit earlier, so that I feel like I know exactly what's going to happen when we sit down at the meeting. Thank you.
Well said, Ms. Boatright. Let's see, have we gotten everybody? Mr. Geyer?
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Campbell?
No, nothing.
Mr. Smith?
Had listening to Mrs. Boatright just now, I guess I would think that I guess everybody's been I've been put on notice about that OE and where what the committee is standing in terms of receiving information prior to meetings. But in other news, I would go back and my question was I don't know, maybe it was my technology, but now I would say I just noticed that I know recently we got an email yesterday about the news and some other stuff in terms of board communication, but I don't think that we've kind of been gotten that for a while. I'm not sure if the district just slowed down that much overnight or what, but it kind of, it for a while, it didn't seem like we were getting any, communications.
Well, I will tell you, the reason, like on the media piece that it slowed down a little bit is, the Island Packet, they had a change in reporters, so now they don't have a full-time reporter anymore.
Right.
A full-time education reporter, mind you. And so that's one reason, like a lot of the TV stations will take stories from the packet and things like that. The other reason is it's been because of the election. Because all the media has been focused on the election. So you see the election ended and then I had a media update with we had four media things yesterday. So I expect it to pick up again on that front.
Okay,
Yeah.
I wasn't sure whether my device was working or what it was, but I just
It has, and it wasn't that we weren't communicating, but things have not gonna wood, they've slowed a bit. You're not wrong on that.
okay.
And I do think it was the election related.
Okay,
Mhm.
okay. And then, okay. Mr. Chairman, it's time. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Bruder. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Nay and Ms. Gordon, are you comfortable moving this one to consent agenda?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, another one down. Another one bites the dust. All right. OE 11.
Okay, and we have our last one, OE 11. The district is in compliance with operational expectation 11 in support of the policy that the superintendent shall ensure the public is adequately informed about the condition and direction of the district. We understand this component requires us to foster positive relations, seek community input, and create methods for the community to be involved in decision-making and supporting district-wide initiatives. So in terms of ensuring timely information flow and community engagement, we do have multiple channels to do this. Again, our BCSD Connected platform has been very, very helpful in engaging parents, staff, and the community in decision-making and district-wide goals. I'll get into those projects in a minute, but I would just like to say the feedback we've gotten on this is that it's very helpful for families in that they can do this from home. And it's in one spot where they can, put their information, see what everybody else is thinking on the same topic. It's not just posting to social media here and there. They don't have to go to an in-person town hall. Those are great too, like I had talked about. But I think for convenience, families have been pretty happy with this. So for example, our rebranding initiative had over 20,000 project visits. The academic calendar input, this platform was very helpful for that. We had 15,000 visits to that. The budget feedback, we had 2,300 visits to that. Strategic plan input, about 1,200. And a prime example of this platform being so helpful was the cell phone usage feedback, where we had about 3,000 visits. So these things are really helpful because it does give us a good pulse where parents were at. Like we were able to see with regard to the cell phones right off the bat that most families supported some sort of regulations around cell phones. So it's very helpful to us in not making assumptions, but really knowing how people are feeling. During our strategic branding refresh, like I mentioned before, feedback was collected through focus groups with parents, students, staff, and surveys. I won't go into the social media stats again because you already heard those. Again, Dr. Rodriguez participated in over 75 presentations and meets regularly with mayors, council members, emergency preparedness officials. We have our student advisory councils. We do have our emergency communications also to include storm communications, which that's really interesting. So many people in the county, decisions are made based on what the school district does because, they need to know if their employees can come to work or they need to stay home with their kids. So we are very, we have a lot of people watching those communications. And let's see here. We also, again, it is very rare that we turn down a media interview. We're trying to be very transparent with that and consistent in our messaging as well. In terms of our regular reporting on presentations on progress, such as financial health, Dr. Rodriguez, like I said, he presents to district staff at our staff meetings with the district office monthly, community groups. obviously at board meetings. Ms. Casper and Molly Mercado did a wonderful job on our community report card, which is at the printer, and you're gonna get a copy of that on Friday. And I already noted this once, but I think it's worth noting, like our financial section of our website is really, really exceptional. And that's due to the finance team. But that's very, very helpful when we get any kind of questions about monetary things. We can refer people exactly to what they're looking for. And again, we're excited about our restructuring. So I think we have a lot of good things ahead as well. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Nate, Ms. Gordon, excuse me.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Nate,
I'm good, thank you.
Boatright,
Nothing for me on this one. Thank you.
Mr. Campbell,
That's fine with me.
Colonel Guyer, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith has left.
Okay. All right. Well, are there any other OEs or presentations to be made in this particular area?
No, that's all we have for you tonight, unless you want us to make up some.
No, not at all. Then I'd just like to make a few comments. I really want to thank all the presenters tonight for the preparation that you have shown and the work you put into being prepared. There's a lot of information, but boy, you've done so many wonderful things to help get the message out there. On the communication side, I like the formatting that you're now using, which is an executive summary, visuals. I think was Mr. Smith mentioned, maybe a call to action point at the end of those presentations so we know what's expected of us would be a good addition as well. You know, a lot of great things are happening, and I hope we don't lose sight of that. So kudos to all. And with that,
Mr.
we have a
Campbell.
question. Okay,
Yeah.
Mr. Campbell, you had a question you wanted to position now, sir. All yours.
Yes, sir. Could you make a note? I got a call from some students and parents today about the light in the parking lot at Robert Smalls. When are they gonna finish that, or when are they gonna do it? Also, I would like to know when have they worked on the gym, the small gym at Rail Branch High School?
Okay, so that was the parking lot light at Robert Smalls. Is that correct,
Yes.
Mr. Campbell?
Yes, right.
And the gym at which school, sir?
Rail Branch Early College High School, a small gym.
Okay.
Need to see repairs.
Okay. So one of the things would like to share is that we had an opportunity to go and ride with Mr. Campbell this past week and view some of the items that he has been bringing forward. And it has led to a very productive conversation. Mr. Campbell, I've not had a chance to double back with you, but you know, looking at bringing those issues forward, one of the things I'm going to try to do myself and encourage other board members is to give, if possible, a brief email saying that this is an item at a specific location, so that the operations group has an opportunity to note, receipt, and track it, and put it into the process to be reviewed and handled and adjudicated. And so would like to say that that is a conversation that has been going on. And thank you. With Mr. Campbell, we actually took pictures so that it's very definite and precise when we're saying this is an issue. The person receiving that can say, oh, I see what you mean. So those are the types of things we want a process that's very quick, very effective in its communication with some precision. And the other side is that the efforts are underway and being made to actually be able to respond quickly and effectively. So thank you, Mr. Campbell, for allowing me to tag along and learn more. So we all collectively are committed to making sure we're responsive. So thank you, sir. And I have those two items noted, and I'll relay them.
Thank you very much.
Okay, Mr. Nay and Ms. Gordon, are you okay moving this item to consent agenda?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right, then that takes care of all of the OEs. Now, the next item I see on the agenda are future topics. Anybody have any that they like to highlight before we move forward?
Nothing for me.
Nothing for me.
Okay, any other board members?
Colonel Guy says no.
Okay, Mr. Campbell, is he still here? I don't see him now. Okay, then if there's support, we can adjourn by unanimous consent. Is that okay?
Just adjourn, your next meeting is December 4th and not December 3rd.
December 4th,
December 4th.
5 p.m., correct, Ms. Cushingberry?
Sir.
Okay. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for your time, your preparation. You really make a difference in the school district and look forward to greater things going forward. Thanks, everybody. Be careful out there.
Thank you.